Okay, this is not what I had planned to go with today, but this is something that has shown up twice in the last week and I need to share it, and I'm going to call some riders out, and it may feel very uncomfortable, but here we go. If you are stuck at a point in your riding, there is something you are not willing to do. And in this particular case, and this is where I'm seeing this show up for riders, you're not willing to invest the time to go slow in order to go fast later. I want to dive into this today. I have seen this literally with two riders. I actually got a DM this morning from one of them, okay? And I can advise people till the cows come home. But if they're not willing to take my advice, well, they're going to stay stuck. They're going to continue going nowhere slowly. And I want to talk about that today. Okay, so on that high horse, let's dive in. Hey there, and welcome to the Daily Strides podcast. My name is Lorna Leeson. I'm an equestrian trainer and coach, and I work with riders from all over the world, helping them to work alone to improve their riding, train their horse, and have loads of fun and excitement along the way. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is how I received this DM this morning, and this rider who I've just been chatting with, okay, haven't been working with, we've just been chatting together, and she was telling me that yesterday evening she'd had another lesson and that her horse was just literally, in her words, ran around with its head up in the air and had no brakes. She said there was absolutely no brakes, like zero, could not find the handbrake. That was her exact words, could not find the handbrake. Okay, now my mind instantly went to all the other advice I'd already given her and how, well, she just keeps wanting to go fast, and it's just not working. Clearly it's not working, okay? So I then began thinking about another rider who I've also been chatting with, who has the exact opposite problem, okay? So her horse, and again, in her exact words, it's like the handbrake won't come off, okay? So she's kind of riding with the handbrake on. Now, what I felt was really interesting, and what I want to shout from the rooftops today, is that I really think that if you're wanting to use a handbrake in your riding, you've got a problem. Like, let's think about driving a car, okay? How often do you use the handbrake? You only use it when you're stopped. So why are we looking for the handbrake when we're riding? Why are we looking for it when we're going? We don't use the handbrake. We use kind of this subtle kind of a use of just the actual the brake, not the handbrake, the brake, the foot brake, okay, the foot pedal brake. And sometimes we use our gears, okay, to slow down as well. That's a way we can slow down. But we are not using the handbrake to slow down or to drive, okay, when we are just driving day to day. In fact, if we want a really nice, a really balanced, a really rhythmical drive, okay, something that flows, that is smooth, you're not going to touch the handbrake, because touching the handbrake is not going to result in that. It's going to result in like a very jerky, like kind of a sudden stop. But not only that, you are going to like veer wildly, usually off the track that you're on, okay? So I think we need to remove the word handbrake from our riding, first and foremost. Okay, so once we get off that high horse, let me dive into what I really think is the issue. The issue is what these riders are not willing to do. And what they're not willing to do is to go back in order to really build the foundation, okay? To get that solid, steady communication between themselves and their horse so that then they can go forward. They are not willing to invest the time doing things that in their mind is either for complete beginners, and I know one of them has said that to me, or is just so boring, like why would you ever bother doing it? The other one has said that to me. You can decide who said what, okay? But they don't want to do that in order to then move forward. So I want to give you a game plan. If you're in this situation, this is what you need to focus on over the coming, I would say 12 weeks in your riding, okay? And I really think like you need to take 3 months. You need to go all in, Go slow so that you can go fast later. And all I mean by going fast later, I don't mean like you're flying around like flat to the mat. I mean that you can speed up in your training. You can actually get to where you want to go. You can build positive momentum to get you and your horse where you want to go. So, very first thing to focus on is get on the ground. Get beside your horse and begin to build your voice aid. Like, your voice is so important, and I see some of the rules have changed now. It's important everywhere, shall we just say, okay? There was a lot of people who were like, I can't use my voice. Well, I think that's coming to an end. So I think your voice. Now, not only your voice, your weight aids, okay? Your seat, that's your seat. You can use that on the ground. And the whole focus for the first, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks is to shift your horses and your association of the aids so that you and your horse are working and thinking forward. If your horse is not thinking forward, it does not matter what you do. And I think this is the problem. What riders who can't find the handbrake, okay, we'll go back to what my first rider said. So when they cannot find the handbrake, when they cannot slow down, when everything is like going 500 miles an hour and it's like, phew, everything's just a blur going past you, okay? You feel like you are literally just a passenger hanging on for dear life in some sort of a wild ride that you never really signed up for. When you are trying just to slow down using the handbrake, that's not forward, because the handbrake isn't built for forward. So drop the handbrake. Get rid of the handbrake analogy, okay? And start going back to basics, working on forwardness on the ground, in walk, splashing in halts, so that you can completely change the association that you and your horse currently have with what it means to A, work forward. Forward doesn't have to be rushed. It's got nothing to do with rushing. Forwardness is a mindset. And then from there, taking action from that mindset. That's what forwardness is, okay? You need to completely change your association with it. You need to change your horse's association with it. And in doing so, you need to introduce your other aids that are going to be so important going forward. Now, for the horse who cannot get the handbrake off, okay, well, the rider who's like, we're stuck, we're going nowhere slowly. Same thing applies. In this situation, what is most often happening is that the rider is doing everything, like everything. They're up there, they're thinking for the horse, they're working for the horse, they're encouraging the horse, they're coaxing the horse. They're like, come on, buddy, please go, please go, please go. And the horse is like going, yeah, whatever, okay? And it's just this complete lack, again, of that forward thinking mindset. You need to shift that on the ground. And this starts with leading. I've said so many times, I ran a live in-person program last year at the farm, like working with actual riders and their horses. And it was fascinating how many people cannot lead their horse. It was amazing. It was mind-boggling. Like, they're dragging their horse, literally like dragging it around. And I'm like, that is not moving forward. We need to have the horse in such a way that it's working with you, that both of you are moving forward. And then in doing that, you guys are getting this kind of connection and this partnership going that is going to build over time and strengthen. And that's where you want to go in your riding. So start on the ground. Can't emphasize that enough, okay? Now, do you need to just lead your horse for 3 weeks solid? No, not at all, okay? But I do think that on the ground, before and after every ride is so important. Which takes me to the second thing that I think you should be doing with your horse, which is walking and halting when you're in the saddle, okay? That simple exercise. You know what? Again, you don't have to spend all your time doing this. If you could, it'd be great. Okay, but I think like this blended in with the groundwork would be the key to the kingdom. If you could focus for like 3 or 4 weeks on it, oh my word, I can only imagine how well you will refine everything for you and your horse. But again, it's what most riders are just not willing to do. They don't want to do that. They see it either as being for complete beginners or they're seeing it as being boring. And neither of those things are true. In fact, they're so far from the truth, okay? This is the deep work. This is the work where you and your horse get to move forward together. Anyway, walking, halting, transitions between the two in the saddle is going to be life-changing, okay? And you are making sure that you are first correct. You are showing up from the place where you need to be in order for your horse to then understand what it is. And again, you are redefining all the aids. You're redefining the expectations. You're redefining what you and your horse have known to be true all the time, working together up to this point. Now it is being redefined differently so that you can move forward together. And again, you have to be willing to go slow. You have to be willing to invest the time now to do the quote unquote boring or beginnerish work in order to move on later. I cannot stress this enough. Like if you're stuck with the handbrake on, your horse is going nowhere slowly, your horse needs to be able to walk forward with you in the saddle without you having to egg him on every step of the way. Like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Yes, this is a responsiveness issue, but as I've always said, responsiveness comes from the rider, okay? So it is a responsiveness issue, but I would also say it is a training issue. You need to retrain the expectations going forward. And if your horse is running around with their nose in the air with no intention of steadying things up a little bit, also, this is the work. This is where you begin to redefine the aids, to bring better aids to the conversation so that you and your horse can work together in a more balanced way. Okay, from there, trot. Obviously, lots and lots of trotting, but with loads and loads of transitions between walk and halt thrown in there as well. What you're looking for with the trot, sometimes people overkill. And again, this goes back to if the horse is kind of Speedy Gonzales and is running around the place flat to the mat, the rider is like, oh no, we need to go really slow. No, you don't. You're not riding with the handbrake. Forget about the handbrake. Like, drop the handbrake from the conversation. It is not important. It is not part of the conversation. It should never have been part of the conversation. Rid your vocabulary of a handbrake when it comes to working with your horse, okay? You don't want slow. You want forward and connected. They are different. They are totally different things, okay? You want to be balanced. You want to be rhythmic. You want to be responsive. You want the energy to flow. That's what you want, not slow. Slow is nonsense. Slow is going nowhere slowly, and that is not where you want to go. No wonder your horse is frustrated. I'd be frustrated watching you. So drop that. Get rid of it, okay? And again, getting on the high horse. But I think this has to be said. Now, if you're on the other side of the equation, you're like, yeah, but my horse isn't going forward. Again, it's a responsiveness issue. It's what you've allowed up to this point. You need to get on board. But your horse will only begin to go forward in the trot when you have taken the time to establish that mentality of forwardness, the forward mindset on the ground in walk, in the saddle in walk, and then building up to the trot. If you're trying to jump in trot and be like, oh, my horse still isn't going forward, of course he's not. Why would he suddenly wake up one morning and decide, oh, listen, I'm going to just show up as my best self and go forward? No, up to this point, you've been doing all the thinking. You've been doing all the doing. You've been doing all the efforting. It's a team sport. You're going to have to teach your horse to come to the training being prepared to actually put something into it. And that, again, comes from you. You have to make the changes. You have to do the work, okay? And then finally, and this is the end. This is not where you start. You end out in the canter, okay? And when you've mastered the walk, the halt, the trot, the canter is just another gear. It doesn't have to be flat to the boards. What the problem is, if you're starting with the canter and you're like, okay, I just need to get the canter under control, or I just need to get a bit more forwardness in the canter, we need to be going somewhere, he needs to be traveling. No, it doesn't start there. The canter is the end. It's a little bit like contact. It's the result of the other things, okay? And you have to get that through your head. I cannot stress this enough. And I know I've come in now very demanding, with not leaving a whole lot of space here for wiggle room at all. But it has to be this way. If you are stuck either with the handbrake on or with the handbrake off, forget about the handbrake. It is not going to serve you well. So forget about it. And then figure out what you've not been willing to do. And I tell you now, I can tell you right now, you have not been willing to go back to the basics and to begin to reschool both yourself and your horse in that place and from that place in order that you can build on it. That's what you've not been willing to do. So the question today becomes, are you willing to? Hopefully my inspired words here, okay, will have a bit of an effect on you and you'll feel, a little bit more enthusiastic to go back, to go slow, to really and truly work on what matters so that you and your horse can step in to the next 3 months after this work is done with a whole different mindset, a whole different way of communicating with each other, and more of a team and a partnership being built that you can really, really step into it and start doing more together in your riding. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. If you would like to work on this is actually what we've been doing inside of Connection for October, November, and coming up in December. We've been working on the half halt. And if you're thinking, what's the half halt? The half halt is the key to the kingdom, okay? That's where you're going to really begin to refine all of this. We started it on the lunge, so groundwork. We're doing it now in the saddle, and then we're going to build on it to actually what you can do from that place next month in December. So if you want all the information and to join us there, you can find it all over at stridesforsuccess.com/join. And if you're looking for a bit of something special around the time that this episode is being released, make sure you pop over to stridesforsuccess.com/black. There might be something there for you that will interest you going forward with your horse. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Have a fantastic day. Keep well, and I'll chat to you soon. Be good. Bye.